From the Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, verses 27 to 38. Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi. And on the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others, Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all of this quite openly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you're setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If anyone wished to come after me, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." The word of the Lord.
Thanks. Lift high the cross, the love of Christ proclaim, till all the world adore his sacred name. Come, Christians, follow this triumphant sign, the hosts of God in unity combine. Lift high the cross, the love of Christ proclaim, till all the world adore his sacred name. Remember, I showed you these this morning. Young girl gave me these, and just during the children's message, I went back to talk to her. She had a whole box of rolls. She's ready to be kind, man. She had them. It was awesome. I want you to think about location this morning. Sometimes where a question is asked matters as much as the question itself. A marriage proposal, for instance. When it's asked at a kitchen table while you're eating hot dogs and fries, that feels quite a bit different than a marriage proposal asked while on the veranda of the Salish Lodge up by Snoqualmie Falls. I mean, that's so beautiful up there, isn't it? I want to go there today. Or take a handshake. That's been kind of a talk around town about a handshake. Refusing to handshake on national TV while you're catching for the United States national team with 10 million folks viewing seems a lot different than maybe refusing a handshake after a pickup game in Arizona during spring training when no cameras are around. Just ask Cal Raleigh, the Mariners all-star catcher. That thing is not going away for some reason. It's just going to stick for a while. Where we ask questions matters. Ask any real estate agent, and they will tell you location, location, location. And the same is true for our Lenten journey through Mark that we've been going on. Throughout Mark's gospel, Jesus keeps moving away at the beginning, away from the centers of power. He goes away from Jerusalem. He moves away from the center of power. He is baptized, for instance, on the Jordan River. That's like, Eastern Washington, man. I mean, that's way over there, right? And not in the temple pools of Jerusalem. And after this Syrophoenician woman confronts him in Tyre, he doesn't retreat back to Seattle, back to Israel. Instead, he feeds the 4,000 even further out beyond the borders. I mean, I think he might be in, Idaho, right? So in Mark, where Jesus is matters. In Mark, where Jesus asks the most compelling question of his whole ministry, well, that matters. And where is it? Today in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus asks perhaps the most important question he ever asks, but he doesn't ask it in Jerusalem. He doesn't ask it in the temple. Nope. He doesn't even ask it in a synagogue. He asks it in Caesarea Philippi. Now, that may not mean much to us at first glance, but it meant a whole bunch in Jesus' day, in ancient world. Caesarea Philippi is not a Jewish city. It is a Roman imperial city. It sat at the base of a massive rock cliff, and carved into these rock cliffs, here they are, were shrines to pagan gods, temples to Pan, one of the gods, temples to Roman deities, temples to Caesar, the ruler who they considered to be a god. They called Caesar in those days Lord, Son of God. We've heard those names called to somebody else, but not Caesar, right? Okay. Caesar, whose empire promised peace not through love, but through brutal force. So I want you to imagine the scene for a minute. Behind Jesus at this moment are these cliffs right there. The temples built to Roman gods. Everywhere on these stones, it's like it's just like a mass media campaign. That's how they did them back there. They did them on stones, right? And everywhere carved into these stones is the imperial Roman propaganda machine. And right there at that place, in the shadow of the empire, Jesus turns to his disciples and he asks, "Who do people say that I am?" That's not the most important question yet, but that's how he starts. Who do people say it's kind of like gossip. What are people saying about me out there? And they answer the way crowds always answer. Some say it's John the Baptist, and so others say Elijah. Still others say one of the prophets, right? But Jesus isn't buying this conversation. He finally turns to all of them and he looks them in the eye, and then he turns the question. He refines the question. Did you notice what he asks? But who do you say I am? What are you saying? I'm tired of all the gossip. What do you think? And Peter, being who Peter is, always eager to be first, the bold one, walking out on the water first, this eager beaver, he shouts out, "You are the Messiah!" And it's almost like he's dropping a microphone. Boom! He wants that big impact, right? Except in Mark, there aren't a lot of microphone drops, right? Because there's always a comma there first. We've been talking about that, right? This is our comma this morning. Did you notice it this morning? This is at the center of our worship service. A sword and a crown of thorns. They do not go together. This is the empire. Peace through what? Brute force, right? Intimidate everybody, right? And this crown of thorns is the suffering servant, right? Whole different understanding. And so here we are, and Peter says the right words, right? You are the Messiah. but he doesn't understand what he's saying and what they mean. And that's understandable. Because immediately after this confession, Jesus begins to explain what kind of Messiah he will be. He's not going to be a conquering Messiah. He's not going to be a sword-wielding Messiah. He's not going to be an empire Messiah. He's going to do things differently. He's going to be a Messiah who chooses to suffer, who will be rejected, who will lose his life. Now, man, Peter, I don't blame him either. He hates that idea. He stomps his feet. He throws a tantrum. He wants victory. He wants to overpower the Romans, to give them a little of what they've been giving the Jews for so long. Do you blame him? Right? He wants to give it back. So he pulls Jesus aside, get the humor here a little bit, and does something we've never seen before. The disciple, Peter, rebukes the Messiah. I mean, come on. What are you doing here, Peter? He rebukes the Messiah. Peter is breathing it in what those walls, those cliffs are saying. You see, he's thinking the way empires think. Power, control, victory. But the kingdom of God, Jesus' way, does not look like Caesar. Empire forces power on people. Jesus' power absorbs evil. You know? He absorbs it and gives out forgiveness instead. That's crazy, right? Empire rules with the sword. Jesus chooses to rule splayed out on a cross. Peter wanted a Messiah who would defeat empire, but Jesus reveals a Messiah who absorbs and takes it all in. I read this one time. What is Jesus trying to do up there on that cross? I think somebody once told me this. Jesus is trying to be a mirror to the whole world. And just hold up a mirror to the world, and hopefully he's thinking if they could only see what they're doing, if they could only see that this isn't going to go anywhere, violence versus violence, it's not going to work. So he's just trying to hold up a giant mirror to the world so they'll finally get it. Have you ever tried to do that as a parent, or a friend? You got to hold that mirror up sometimes. My granddaughter Emerson and I talked about it in our children's message. We've been reading this book called Wonder. Any of you read it, by the way? Wonder? We should read it as a church. It's an awesome book. And in the story, there's this teacher, Mr. Brown, who gives this precept, and I talked about it already, but I want to reemphasize it. When given the choice between being right or kind, always choose kind. That line just stuck with me all week. That's the kind of Messiah Jesus is revealing. A Messiah who chooses kindness in a world that worships power. Empire shouts, win the argument, prove the point, defeat your opponent, take up debate and smash them with your wit and words. I think there should be a new debate format, by the way. Any of you do debate in high school or college? I mean, yeah, I can tell. You're very sharp with your words, Ann. That's what we're taught. We're taught to use our words as weapons, right? But I think we should change the format and have two parts to the format. First part of the format, go ahead. The two of them go at it, debate. Use your words and defeat and conquer the other one. But then, I think we should have them both come together, the two sides, and they have to collaborate and come together and find a shared solution. Because I believe with all my heart, debate does nothing but cause enemies. If we could only learn the second part of that, of collaborating with somebody we don't agree with and finding a shared solution. Not yours, by the way, but a shared one. I was listening to a Seahawks talk show the other day on my way back from work, and they had a guest on who was an ex-football player. And he was, I won't tell you his name because he said something really horrible here. And he was telling the crew that the Seahawks shouldn't care about character when they go out and get a defensive player, right? Just get the meanest, baddest player you can find, right? And they're all kind of laughing. And then he says this, I don't care if they beat up their girlfriend, he said, as long as they can play mean, nasty football. Well, he might have been joking, I don't know, but I beg to differ, and I hope you do too. No way, man. If we can't look for character in the people who are going to be on our teams and lead our children, character should always matter. But of course, I am different from this world. I choose to follow the Jesus way. I choose to oppose that kind of empire logic. Empire logic says, be right, win, overpower, win at whatever cost. Be as bad and mean and as nasty as you can. But Jesus stands in the shadow of Caesar's temples today and reveals something radically different. A Messiah whose power is not about domination, but about collaborative love. A Messiah who absorbs hatred rather than returning it blow by blow back. If anybody wants to follow me, Jesus says, let me deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. And here's my question for you this morning. What does it mean to have Jesus as a Messiah in your life? Does it mean Jesus is our mascot for our tribe? A defender of our politics? A protector of our comfort zones? The head of state of our Christian nationalist state? Or is he the Messiah who reveals a completely different way to live? Now, how does this following Jesus work in everyday life? Yesterday, our family was sitting around the table talking about old times. And one of my sons, not Sam, was talking about show choir. And he said, I don't know why you guys made me go out for show choir. Well, it wasn't exactly made him. There were some rules we had that if you were a freshman or sophomore, you had to go out for something musical. And so, and he also had to go out for some sport. And so he chose choir, and all the boys were in show choir, and he did hate it. I get it. We watched it. He was not enjoying it, but he made it through it, right? And so, as he was telling me this story, I kind of got my debater on. You know, I got defensive. Why is that? I mean, I'm 64. Do I have to debate my kid yet and prove that we were right? You know, but I did. I kind of got it on. And we could feel the tension. We could feel it in the room. And I remember afterwards, you know, because he was upset. He was trying to say, why did you guys make me do that? I hated it. And you could tell he was hurt. And so later, you know, why is it the cross comes like 5 hours after the confrontation? But later I got to thinking about it, and I thought, why couldn't I have just been kind there? Why did I have to be right? And Wes and I are never going to get close together if I've got to be the right one. It's not going to happen. And so I remember laying there in bed, and I thought, I got to write him a text or something. So I wrote him a text, and I just said, man, parenting is very humbling, and we think we're doing the right thing, but I'll be honest, that was a mistake. We made a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. And he texted me back. And I think we got closer, right? And folks, that's what we got to do in this world. We can't keep it up, the duking. We can, but we're just going to get further and further apart. Somehow. We got to play a different game. And that's what Jesus is calling us to try to be. Could the church be the people who play the game differently and put kindness first? It sure helped with Wes and I. Maybe it can help in your life. And all the people said,